instead of, having to make cuts and having to do that kind of stuff. I think it's good, and I really believe that there's good things ahead for this whole region, and I'm a big believer in what the oil and gas industry is doing, but it's the spin-off now that we're starting to see out. Yesterday, I went over and filled in for Commissioner Creighton at the Alliance Development. They don't call themselves Foundation anymore, but that Tom Pukish's group. And, there's some good businesses over there in Alliance, like Robertson's Heating and Cooling, who went through some difficult times, but in Mac Trailer. And I know Mike Connie, and Mike was gracious enough to take me out and give me a tour of his facility there in Alliance. And, here's a guy that's basically started out by when he thought he could build better trailers and got a loan from at least this is how I heard the story, from his grandma, and built one trailer. And he's got 1,000 employees. He's putting 6 trailers a day out of the facility in Alliance. He's got a facility in Ravenna and a facility in Kent, and he's continuing to grow. He puts 6 trailers an hour, or 6 trailers a day out at the facility in Alliance, and these aren't, not trailers to haul motorcycles. These are big truck trailers, and I like that kind of stuff. So it was good to see, and he's growing, and he's picking up. Used to do just dump trailers and flatbeds and things like that, but now he's doing bulk trailers that handle sand and some of the other commodities that are going to be involved in the whole oil and gas thing. So that's the kind of spin-off that we're starting to see in the manufacturing sector to service and provide for the oil and gas industry.
Do you have a take on the Hercules project?
I heard about it a long time ago. I remember sitting down with Bob Timken and Steve Kuhn when they talked at one time about developing a whole, not entertainment center, but there was talk of moving the Hall of Fame at one point in time or another to the Hercules site. I think it's great. I hope they're successful. I think it's going to be a challenge. Now, I did that one time. I served on the Clean Ohio Council. I was on the green side. I wasn't on the brownfield side of things. But God bless them. I hope it works out for them. But I think it's going to be a challenge. But in order for Canton and the whole region to continue to grow, housing is a big part of it. And I'm hopeful that Steve Kuhn gets the Onesta back going again.
That's still a possibility?
My understanding, I still see cranes on the side of it.
Has there been some activity there?
I can't say for certain, but I know that I thought that I had heard that he was going to continue moving forward with the project.
Okay. You did talk a little earlier in our conversation today about your enthusiasm for the oil and gas industry, the Utica Shale and the Marcellus Shale here in Stark County. Have you given any thought to the other side of that? Chris Borello and her concerned citizens of Stark County. How would you respond to their concerns? I can tell you, they get real nervous when they hear a commissioner, Richard Regula, be real enthusiastic about oil and gas. So what would your message be to folks on that side of the issue?
Well, my message would be I've done a tremendous amount of research on them. I've been out on numerous rig sites. They are very, very, very safety conscious. Can accidents happen? Sure, accidents can happen. But they'll tell you that they learned a lot from what went on in Oklahoma and Texas. And as this whole thing is unfolded, they've learned some things in Pennsylvania. I think Ohio has done a wonderful job by having the regulatory authority being the ODNR. And as long as they're fully staffed and regulated properly, I've not seen a whole lot of downside beside the 2 incidents that happened in Youngstown. But I have yet to hear of a fracking mistake in the fracking process. Now, if you want to be concerned, this is just my opinion. This is the transportation of the product. Of course, the wastewater is a concern, and there's a lot of companies like Ratu and some other that are dealing in coming up with alternatives for the wastewater. I mean, currently injection wells are kind of the way to go, but there is some processes that you're going to see long term, whether it's distilling or whether it's running it through a filtering system that is going to handle it, because they know that that's an issue, is the wastewater. But I like I said, I've watched Gasland, and last night I watched Frackland, and I've done a lot of research on them, and we've got to do our due diligence on the regulatory authority. But I'm a firm believer that we fight all these wars over oil when it all comes down to it. And if we have a clean supply here in the United States, especially the natural gas side of things, I think fuel cells are the way of the future. I'm all about being green. I've been involved in various greening projects over the past 6 years. We've looked at wind, we've looked at solar. I think fuel cells, and we've got the research center here at Stark State, because they run on clean burning natural gas, which we have an abundant supply of. I think that is the way to go. So I understand their concerns, but I'm a firm believer that we should be independent of foreign oil, and if we have a supply here, and just the investment and the jobs that are coming to this region, a region that's desperately in need of that kind of activity, that's why I believe it.
So do you want to reassure the Chris Barolo's out there that Commissioner Richard Regula is going to be very concerned about environmental factors?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That is the number one concern, is protecting the environment and protecting the whole region. And I fully support ODNR in their efforts, but I'm just saying I've seen them in action, and I know how safety conscious the industry is. They can't afford mistakes, and when they come in to do the drilling, the way they're in huge sites, don't get me wrong, but they leave when they're done. The sites I have seen are just as clean as when they started. And the only concern I have, the major concern, is the wastewater is a concern, and I think they're moving in that direction, that it will be handled in an alternative to the injection wells.
So do you think that environmental groups have had their impact on the oil and gas industry?
Oh, I'm sure they have.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sure they have.
Okay. Now, this morning,
Mm-hmm.
you were at a meeting hosted by 7th Congressional District Congressman Bob Gibbs
Mm-hmm.
on transportation needs in Stark County.
Yep.
Can you give the readers and viewers of the Stark County Political Report
Well, it
a
was
summation of what happened at that meeting?
Yes, it was a group of various people from either the trucking industry. There was the representatives of the port authorities from Cleveland and Columbiana County. There was Representative Rick McQueen was there from the airport. Ron DeBar, who was president of Neotech. I think he and the congressman were the ones that called the meeting together. They just informed Congressman Gibbs about what the needs are of our community. Infrastructure improvements are going to have to be addressed because our roads are crumbling. If you think about it, a lot of the interstates go back to the Eisenhower era, and so there's going to be needed some upgrades on the current interstates. But and it wasn't talked about a whole lot, but some of the future needs, and I'm a big supporter of having Route 30 as a 4-lane to Route 11 and into the river, as I like to say, because I think you're going to see a lot of commodities moving on the Ohio River and the Mississippi River, and they talked just briefly today about the widening of the Panama Canal, so there's going to be more freight that's going to be coming through our region. And back to the oil and gas, the key to this whole thing is going to be to get either the wet gas or the gases or the oil from out of the hole, but basically to the refineries that are mostly on the Gulf Coast and some of those areas. So the transportation it's going to be a combination of, and there was a lot of rail guys there, it's going to be a combination of rail, piping, surface transportation, and or going down the river one way or another. So it was very good. I think it was very informative to the congressman The trucking industry, which I know a lot about, has really had some issues about hours of service and some of the regulatory things that continue to be piled on to the trucking industry. The regulations that the EPA has put out over the past 6, 8, 10 years about these clean burning engines and I understand that you don't want these the older engines that spewed all the black smoke, but the EPA has made these emissions so difficult to achieve, and every time that the engine building industry gets close to having something that's reliable, because these engines run hotter, they're less economical, they burn more fuel, and they're not as reliable. And that's a real concern for the industry. All these regulations have added, hundreds, tens of thousands of dollars to every truck that's
and they don't last as long.
And they don't last as long because they run hotter. And so it's a real concern for the industry. We just went through. There's, I think, in 2014, there's going to be another set of standards that come out. They're finally, I think, getting the engines going to make them more reliable, but that's a concern, and then the hours of service, and then it goes right back to the improvements in the roadways, because what holds transportation up is road construction, bridges being out, and the United States is finally going to have to realize that it's been 50 years since some of these roads have been built, and some of them are going to need some major upgrades, and it's not cheap to do. But I really would I'd love to, and there's a lot of other people that would love to see Route 30 finally finish. I think this section.
Did that come up at the meeting?
Just a little bit, and I was going to go over. District 4 was going to have a meeting over in Lisbon today that I was going to try to attend, but I just couldn't. That's going to be, but it's going to be discussed, and it's going to be discussed because of the needs of. You're seeing a tremendous amount of product that's coming into the area for the oil and gas. The intermodal in Navarre, which was down to basically one company using the 4 spurs, is now back up and going full bore once again. They're hauling out oil and wet gas energy products, but they're bringing sand in for the fracking process, and that's creating jobs. It's creating truck driving jobs. One of the things that all the trucking folks talked about is the shortage of drivers. They talked about having the ability. Talked about veterans today of having the ability to hire younger veterans when they come back and not make them go through some of the, whether it's the maneuverability or some of the other things that they know how to do. It's just a matter of having them go down to big rig truck driving school and get their CDLs. So it's because there's a need in the industry for skilled truck drivers.
Congressman going to get back to you folks?
Yes, he's going to write up. He had all his staff there, and I think it was more of a listening tour type of thing. And I think Ron from Neotech wants to make it kind of on a bi-monthly basis, because they need to know what's going on. And one thing I like about Congressman Gibbs, I'm an ag guy. I grew up on a farm, still lived close to my dad's farm down south of Navarre, and he brings that perspective, which I think sometimes in D.C. you need a hog farmer from Holmes County that can kind of clarify some issues.
Is that what Congressman
Yes,
Gibbs has?
Yep. He has. I don't think he still has he still lives on the farm. I don't know if he still has the hogs.
Okay. So all in all, you were impressed with the session, and
Absolutely.
think it's going to be helpful to Stark County.
Absolutely.
Good.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you, Commissioner Regula.